Over the last few months, I've been playing lots of games and I've been testing out lots of new keyboards at both ends of the pricing spectrum. The Keychron Q1 Max is on the high end of that spectrum, and it's the latest keyboard that I've had on my desk. It could also be the keyboard that stays on my desk. I'm Nick, and I've been using the Keychron Q1 on and off since about December 2023, and it's one of the most polarizing keyboards that I've used in a long time for a few reasons. So what makes the Q1 Max tick? The Q1 Max is a 75% wireless double gasket mounted keyboard with lubed hot swap switches. The version we have here uses the Gateron Jupiter red switches. Let's take a quick listen. In the box, you get a lot of extras. You get some spare screws just in case you're pulling the whole case apart. You get spare rubber feet, you get a little screwdriver and an Allen key for disassembling the whole deck. You get a USB Type-C cable for charging it or to use in wired mode. As well as that, you get regular stuff like some extra keycaps, you get a keycap and switch puller, and those keycaps that come with it, you can be used for either Mac or PC, depending on which one's pre-installed in your keyboard. From what I found, it's got the Mac ones pre-installed. You can also buy the Keychron Q1 Max in a kit that you can assemble for yourself, or you can do what I have here. Here's a pre-built one. I'm lazy and I just prefer pre-built keyboards. It just makes it easy to make videos about as well. The design of the keyboard itself has an aluminium body. The Q1 Max weighs around 1.7 kilos and it's a very heavy keyboard. Definitely one of the heaviest 75% decks that I've used. It's so planted on the desk that it barely moves at all when you're being a sweaty gamer, and I really like that. As mentioned, the form factor of the Q1 Max is 75%. It's not my preferred size for gaming, but I don't really think you're sacrificing anything in terms of functionality for gaming. It's pretty rare that you'll need a numpad unless you're playing something that really needs it, but 75% is fine. For productivity, the numpad is definitely needed. Well, I need a numpad, so for productivity, I wouldn't use a keyboard like this. The spacing on the Q1 Max is great and the ergonomics feel pretty well thought out. On the underside, there's no height adjustable feet at all. It's got these little rubber dome feet that help with the grip on your desk surface, and as mentioned, it comes with a couple spares as well. On the rear of the Q1 Max, there's a USB Type-C port for charging, and there's two switches. One of the switches is for switching the keyboard between either Mac or PC mode, and the other switch is a three-way toggle for switching between wireless, wired, and Bluetooth modes. So yeah, you've got a lot of different connectivity options here. Speaking of wireless, the Q1 Max has an included wireless dongle for use with either PC or Mac or console, but I'm guessing it works on consoles, but I haven't tested that because most wireless keyboards work on consoles these days. The Q1 Max uses 2.4 gigahertz wireless and it's got a 1000 hertz polling rate. Bluetooth only has a 90 hertz polling rate, so I'd suggest using the 2.4 gigahertz wireless mode, not Bluetooth, if you're a serious gamer, right? If you're not, it doesn't really matter. The legend on each of the KSA Profile Double Shot PBT keycaps is nice and it's really easy to read. The keycaps themselves feel smooth and they're not too grippy, but I'll come back to this though because there's something I did notice about these keycaps. There's also a little volume wheel on the top right hand side of the deck that can also be pushed in to mute the audio too. Now, it's not just a volume knob. The knob can be remapped to do anything you like in any program you like through the software. This is an open source keyboard, so there's a lot of functionality and things you can change with either VIA or QMK. A little handy trick that I learned as well when I was playing around with the keyboard is if you hold down the function key and you rotate the knob, it'll control the Q1 Max's lighting brightness, which I think is pretty handy from the jump. Especially if you're pulling it out of the box and it's a bit bright for your liking, you're like, hey, I'll just change it. That's the easiest way to do it. The Q1 Max has per key RGB lighting and it can be configured on the keyboard without the requirement for any software, or as mentioned, it is an open source keyboard, so You can use either VIA or QMK to configure the lighting and the key map and basically anything to customize the keyboard at all. The Q1 Max, because it is this way, it's customizable. I like keyboards like this, and I mean, why not let people do whatever they want with something they bought, right? As mentioned, the Q1 Max is hot swappable, which will allow you to use basically any 3 or 5 pin switch on it. The switch sockets are south facing, which means the light is at the bottom. The Q1 Max is a double gasket mounted keyboard with silicon dampers and foam lining, and there's a bit of latex in there too. It makes the keyboard sound very, very smooth. The included switches and stabilizers are pre-lubed, as you probably heard from the sound test earlier. I thought this might be interesting. Let's just pull the keyboard apart. You can use the included Allen key to do this. It's 8 screws to get in, but it's too slow for me. I'm gonna use my LTT screwdriver with another bit. We'll flip the deck over so we can take a bit of a closer look. We need to pull the knob off. Disconnect the battery first. On the bottom side, we've got one of the gaskets here. It's like a foamy slash silicone-y, rubbery kind of gasket. And underneath that, we've got the 4000 milliamp hour battery. There's quite a few layers for sound dampening in the Q1 Max. Next, we'll have to remove this board here, which has the switches on it. There's 2 screws that hold that board in, right? And that will allow us to pry the keyboard away from the case, making sure you unplug the wireless antenna. It's got little clips that hold the antenna in place here as well. So it's easy to reroute them. Once we've unplugged the antenna connector, you can see the little wireless module on the back of the keyboard. Here's the deck itself. You can see that it's got some of the additional gaskets around the edge to stop vibration here. Very, very soft. You can see the top frame of the case as well. It's very, very solid. And I think the bulk of the weight is in the base of the keyboard. If you look closely, you'll see that there's another gasket in here as well. So between the PCB, there's another layer of plastic and then the gasket to stop the vibration. If I squeeze it, you can see that that's the whole point of it. As far as battery life, the Q1 Max has a 4000 milliamp hour battery, which claims to give you around about 180 hours of battery life. I will admit, when I first pulled this out of the box, I did charge it. I don't usually do that. And it's not because the battery was flat out of the box. It's because I was using another keyboard at the time and I plugged this into the USB-C cable that I have on my desk for charging keyboards. I didn't even think about the battery life when I was using it. When I pulled it out of the box, I also didn't check the battery level. So I just don't think about those things sometimes. But the funniest thing about the Q1 Max is I was using it alongside a bunch of other decks that I've had on my desk, and this was one of the keyboards that I found myself coming back to, and the reason was battery life. Typically, I don't use keyboards in wide mode. Wireless keyboards are so good now that the pitfalls of wireless keyboards, they're just no longer a thing. I never turn this keyboard off. I just kind of picked it up, put it in front of me, and it was always ready to go since December, right? Keep in mind that when I pulled it out of the box, like I said before, I did charge it in December 2023. It's now the end of February 2024, and I haven't plugged it in since. So I'd say the 180 hours of battery life is pretty accurate. For gaming, here's where the Q1 Max gets a little bit weird for me. The home keys, which are F and J on every keyboard, they're indented. And I found myself fiddling with these 2 keys because of the depth of the profile of the keycap. I hope that makes sense. There's obviously something really wrong with me, not the keyboard. I don't know what it is. Like, you just kind of put your fingers on them, you start playing around with them and your fingers get stuck. I know it sounds a little bit creepy, but yeah. Other than me being a bit of a space cadet, I'd say for gaming, the Q1 Max is pretty spot on. I really liked it. It's a great keyboard for being a sweaty little nerd like me. The thing that really makes the Q1 Max stand out for me though is the fact that it's so solid and it allows you to disassemble it so easily. With a couple of screws, you can get in and get your hands dirty and see what makes the Q1 Max tick, right? Now, I'm not saying that this is the only keyboard ever in the existence of keyboards to allow you to do this, but they even give you the tools to do it with this keyboard. But if I had to criticize one thing about the Q1 Max, I'd say that the fact that it doesn't have adjustable feet kind of gets me every time, but at the same time, this is a 1.7 kilogram keyboard. You're gonna need some pretty sturdy feet to hold it up. Also, I think that if this thing had feet, it would take away from the design of the Q1 Max as well, because it's just such a solid looking keyboard. It's supposed to be a solid keyboard, and I think feet would make it feel cheap. And that's a bit of a weird thing to criticize about the keyboard, even though I'm kind of undoing my criticism for it. But if you're interested in this thing, the Keychron Q1 Max is going for around 189 USD or around about 289 AUD for the bare bone kit with, you know, not the whole thing assembled and whatnot, or 209 US dollars or around 329 Aussie dollars for the fully assembled keyboard like the one that I've got here. I think Keychron did a great job on the Q1 Max. It has all of the QMK and VIA features you could ever want, and it's just so easy to customize in software as well. It has all the hallmarks of a great custom keyboard, but also comes pre-assembled. To me, for anyone that's a proper custom keyboard enthusiast, something like the Q1 Max is a no-brainer because you can buy it either assembled or not assembled. This keyboard's great. In fact, it's better than great. It's epic. I like it, and I think you guys are gonna like it too. Let us know in the comments what you think about the Keychron Q1 Max. I really enjoyed my time with this keyboard. I think this one's gonna stay on my desk right next to my Space Gray Cooler Master MK770. I'm weird like that. If I have a bunch of keyboards on my desk and I like them, I'll keep all of them on my desk. But at the moment, there's 3 keyboards that are floating around on my desk, but can the Newfie Gem 80 replace any of them? Make sure you subscribe to find that out, because the Gem 80 is the next keyboard that we're checking out. Also, check out one of these videos here as well, if you want. It's right next to the keyboard. Maybe it's above the keyboard. I don't know where it is, but just watch one of them.